Life Rhythms with Ryan Skyy. Observing the world around me, looking inward, trying to make sense of it all. Hey guys, welcome to Life Rhythms radio show. I'm your host, DJ producer Ryan Skyy. Very excited about today's episode. Life Rhythms radio show revolves around my personal growth journey. As a DJ and a songwriter, I spend a lot of my time observing the world around me, looking inward, trying to make sense of it all. I've been doing it in song form, and now I'm doing it with my radio show. Every episode of Life Rhythms, we feature one song and one personal growth topic. Today, I've got a special guest, Lost Frequencies. He is a DJ, Belgian DJ and record producer, amassing over 3.5 billion streams as of 2020. He's best known for his single, Are You With Me, which went multi-platinum. That single's got over 500 million streams on Spotify, which is insane. It's won the Echo Award, beating out Adele. It went number one in 18 countries. I mean, the list goes on. It's a huge success. I'm excited to have Lost Frequencies on today, and because we're going to be featuring his single, Don't Leave Me Now. You heard a little bit of it coming into this episode. Don't Leave Me Now. I love the record, and specifically, topic-wise, we're going to talk about fear of abandonment, because in the lyrics of Don't Leave Me Now, the singer talks about saying, I don't deserve you, I took you for granted, don't leave me now. The singer talks about there being an ocean in between your heart and me. There's clearly been some sort of rift between the two, and the singer feels the other person slipping away and is asking them to stay, is kind of like in this vulnerable place of saying, don't leave me now. I don't think, I've never really been in a place where I've actually asked somebody, please don't leave me. I usually internalize these kinds of feelings and just hope they won't leave. But I love the topic of this fear of losing somebody. It's something that we all experience to differing degrees. We're going to talk about signs of fear of abandonment in just a minute. I'm going to take a short break and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about kind of like what causes the fear of abandonment, because it's not something that we are learned. It's not something that we're born with. And I wrote a quote on the topic, and the quote goes like this: abandonment is not a fear we are born with. It is learned, picked up from stories and archetypes, and through our personal experiences of sudden loss of a loved one. The only way to resolve a fear of abandonment is to reprogram our minds by watching our thoughts and changing the meaning that we give to things. So we're going to take a short break, and when we get back, I'm going to have my guest, Lost Frequencies, join us. We're going to dive into his song, Don't Leave Me Now. I've got my manager and co-host, Scott Waldman, also joining the show right after this short break. Hey guys, welcome to Life Rhythms radio show. I am your host, DJ producer Ryan Skyy. So excited for my guest today. We've got Lost Frequencies joining us, Belgian DJ and record producer. His real name is Felix. I'm going to say, hey Felix, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Excited to have you on the show. I also have my manager and co-host, Scott Waldman, with me. Hey, Scott.
There's an ocean in between your heart and me.
Yes. Felix, lyric tie-in, right? We're all about that on the show. So you guys, leading up into this segment, we played a little bit of Felix's new record, Don't Leave Me Now. And you heard a little bit of that. Scott did a tie-in. I'm excited. First of all, I love the record, Don't Leave Me Now. I love the production. It's got so much. I was listening to it last night, and it's got so much ear candy. Your sound design is really cool. The highs and the lows, the bass line in there, it works really well together. I love what you did with
Thanks.
the record. Really cool. Yeah, cool grooves.
Yeah, we use a lot of in that one particularly. I used a lot of hardware and stuff to make it sound more real and have more deepness for the bass line. Because now everybody's going like with the slap bass, like the Brazilian sound. And I tried to do that, but more with the Moog, so it's not as harsh and more warm. And I think I managed to do it with this track.
Yeah, I noticed it had a richness to it that you could tell like right away as soon as the bass kicks in. And so Don't Leave Me Now is a single off of your 6-track EP, Cup of Beats, which is it's a cool EP because it's got a pretty diverse range of of the songs that are on there. It's all electronic music, but you've got, like some darker elements in some of the tracks, and then you have country infusion in one of your other tracks. So there's a pretty nice range there that you've put out in this EP. Was that the goal?
Yeah, it's more that I wanted to release a little something of everything I did produce during the quarantine, and during the quarantine I got in contact also with Easton Corbin, who was the original singer of my first single, Are You With Me? And so it was really cool for me to be able to work with him. That's why there is this country vibe in the EP. But then, yeah, like you said, there is also a little bit more poppy dance, and then there is more dark stuff because I did a talk also with Winona Oak, and I felt like it was more edgy, and I could go further into electronic sounds, and it really fits with the vibe. So yeah, it's more like a roller coaster than really a straight line.
Yeah, I could see that. I wanted to feature "Don't Leave Me Now" on the show Life Rhythms because we always use the song that we're featuring as a jumping off point for a personal growth topic, because ultimately this is a personal growth show. It's music based, but we talk about personal growth in each episode. And Don't Leave Me Now, when I'm listening to it, Scott did a little bit of a lyric tie-in, but just right down to the chorus of Don't Leave Me Now, what I hear in this song is possibly a kind of like a fear of abandonment. You're afraid someone's going to leave you, or you're asking them to stay. So I have like a short list of topics that I've been wanting to go over on this show, and fear of abandonment was one of them. So I was like, oh, good. This is a perfect opportunity to maybe talk about that. So that's kind of what I thought.
It fits completely.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So we're going to talk about the fear of abandonment. And I want to, listeners, so, we've got Lost Frequencies on today as our guest. And just to give you a quick rundown, no small feat. So far, he's had over 3.5 billion streams as of 2020. That's crazy. Like,
sweet.
That's pretty insane. Yeah, that's sweet. Can you wrap your head around that number? Like 3.5 billion. And at some point, it must just,
really, but at some point I get more focused on what's coming than really focusing on the past all the time, because when I do a lot of interviews, they always ask me how I feel about stuff I just achieved in the past years. I'm more focused into what's next than rather what just happened the last few years, because otherwise I get lost in the time.
Do you feel pressure as you achieve success? Do you feel pressure with the next release that's coming out?
It depends when and in what situation, because the thing is with Lost Frequencies, I managed to create two facets, like two faces. I have the really radio friendly dance pop music that I'm releasing every 3 months or something, and then I have this more deeper melodic electronic based sounds that I get to release also. And now my fans and my followers, they know that I do these two games also, because when I play my DJ set in the live show, it's more powerful than what you hear on the radio, but it's not too far-fetched either. So when I feel a little bit pressure about something, I'd rather go into the other project when I can really do what I want, or where I can go a little bit more crazy. And once I've done those tracks, I can go back and focus on the more, let's say, more the radio pop tracks are harder to create than the club tracks, because it's more like a flow, and than the singles. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's really interesting. I want to ask you, so I asked you about if you feel the pressure with the new release. And I'm also wondering, so if we're going to talk about fear of abandonment, do you ever wonder about because I was I'm planning on mainly focusing fear of abandonment with like relationships, but then I'm just thinking now from a career standpoint, is there a sense of anxiety in terms of ranking in the world and like where you stand with your fans, and are they going to stick around, or like if the industry can be fickle, and longevity of your career? Like, are these things that you think about? I mean, it has to be some kind of like a little bit, I know I would probably feel that kind of anxiety a little bit of, not wanting to be abandoned career-wise,
I see what you mean. I guess it's something that can happen. Maybe I feel it's more a thing for people that's like singers and songwriters, and people that really go on stage as performers. For me, I'm a DJ. I perform on stage, but I see myself more as a producer. So if somehow things go sideways and I don't tour anymore because my following went down, I'm super happy to be able to be in the studio and produce. I managed to get all the contacts. I can be in contact with amazing singers. I can produce for them too. So I guess with everything I've achieved in the past, I'm not really stressed about what's coming, but I hope I can go back touring, of course, because it's not what I like to do in the first place, but it gives me a lot of inspiration. So I think now my lifestyle is becoming touring and producing, and the touring really feeds the producing part. But if somehow
I was just going to ask you that. I was going to ask you if it influences your production, the touring.
Oh yes, that's for sure. Yeah. but then if I would be scared of abandonment, I think it would be more from my team wise. If somebody from my team leaves, then it's more a big change for me. That in that way, that's how we're gonna manage stuff. Instead of if fans leave me for some reason, I hope not.
Ryan, your team's important.
Yes, the team is important.
Yes, it's important. For me, my manager, we're really close, and he's a little bit out of the box thinking like how he works. So if I had ever need to change manager, I think it would be completely different way of working, and I like how it's working now. So I hope we still get on the same vibe for the next few years.
I hope so too. The music you're putting out is stellar, and you seem to be in a good flow with your career. Yeah, cool. So we've got Lost Frequencies with us as a guest. We're going to talk about fear of abandonment related to his track "Don't Leave Me Now," which is what we're featuring today. So when I was looking into fear of abandonment, one thing that was interesting to me was that it's not a fear that we're born with. We are born with only two innate fears as babies: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Not the fear of abandonment. The fear of abandonment, it's something that we learn over time, and it's an anxiety. It's not actually recognized as a mental health disorder, but it is something that many people experience. It's kind of treated as an anxiety, and it's something that people experience with thinking about the idea of losing someone they care about.
Yes, yeah. I guess you're right, because it's more like you first get attached to people, and if one day they leave, then you feel this love you had for somebody. You cannot give it to this person anymore, and then it's gone. I guess because in the first place, when you're born, you don't love people around you. You're just there. So love comes first, and then that comes afterwards, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's when we experience loss, maybe that's when the fears can come up, and I think it's maybe something we all experience, but maybe to different degrees. There is something that I came across called object constancy. So, and this is really interesting to me. So the concept is that even when we are not in the presence of a person, our experience of them does not fundamentally change. So basically, object constancy, it develops before the age of 3. So basically, a child with good object constancy, the child understands that important relationships are not damaged by time apart from that person. So as the child gets older, it starts spending more time away from their parents, for example, and the child learns that, hey, when I'm in school, just because I haven't seen my parents all day, they still love me. There's still a connection there. Nothing is lost or changed. But some people, they don't develop a healthy object constancy. And when they're away from somebody, they start to feel anxiety and they start to question the relationship, and does the person still care about them? Am I losing this person? I haven't heard from them. And it's kind of like all these stories going on in their
separation
mind.
Anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, like dropping your kid off at school, and then the kid is crying when you're driving away because they think that you may never see them again.
Yeah. Did you experience any of that as a kid?
I'm more when you say it like that. Then I'm first of all, I'm thinking about, a lover's relationship, like how when you can be gone, people can go crazy, like, what are you doing right now? But that's not really fear of abandonment. That's sometimes that's maybe something different. But it must be hard for people to not realize that when somebody leaves, nothing really changes as long as they come back at some point later in time. It will still be the same. Like there is a rapper, a French rapper. He has a lyric in one of his raps where he says that you live in a place, but if somehow you leave this place, you can come back 5 years later. It's probably going to be exactly the same that's when you left, and you don't need to be scared of leaving sometime places, because I mean people say they move stuff, but it doesn't really move that quickly, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Things seem to change, but somehow they stay the same.
So surely for me here in Brussels, like people, I can be gone for a whole tour, 6 months. I come back, I go drink a beer with my friends, and it's like I left yesterday. Like nothing really important happened. Everybody's happy, enjoying life. And I think that's cool. It's nice.
Such an amazing feeling to be able to just pick right up where you left off. Do you experience? So I find, I have different groups of friends in my life, and some of them are high achievers, and some of them maybe I don't know, not high achievers, or they live a more simple life. And I find that kind of like the more success I experience in my life, because I'm a very ambitious person, sometimes with some people I feel a little awkward, like catching up with them, and I'm telling them all these things I'm doing and then what's going on in my life, and I almost feel like I want to not share as much with them. Do you experience that? I mean, with the success that you've had?
100%. Usually when that happens, when I'm at the table where somehow some of my friends are like the other kind of friends, like they're struggling with what they want to do, with what's the next step. Usually I don't really talk for the first half an hour to see, I just listen and I see where it's going, what they're talking about, and to see if my ideas are in vibes with what they're saying, because I don't want to be mean. I don't want to say anything harsh, and I don't want to be too quickly in what I say also, because sometimes when other kind of views, it's nice to listen first and then think about what you think yourself. And usually I start to talk like half an hour later into the conversation, really more actively than just like small talk somehow.
Oh, that's smart. Would you describe yourself as an observer? For me, in some settings, I'm very outgoing, but when I get into big group settings, I can be quiet, and I find myself kind of like watching and observing people and taking in information. Because you said you wait to speak.
It depends who you're with, I guess.
Maybe that's true. Yeah.
If I'm with like if I go out and I'm with one really, really crazy guy, I guess I will follow him into his craziness and don't mind who is around me. But if I'm with my mother, I will be way more relaxed, and I will be for sure watching everybody around me.
Yeah, so it's kind of like feeding off of the energy of who you're with.
Yes, that's who I am 100%, and also that's how I built my close team that's on tour with me. We are usually when we do the DJ sets, we are 3 people minimum, and it's my tour manager and my photograph, and those 2 guys they're really insane. Like they have a lot of energy all the time, and I really feed on them, I guess.
Truth awesome. Never lies.
When you say that again,
yeah. Say the little sentence.
Hey man, the beat of my heart is crazy.
Let's take a look at the song. So we've got Lost Frequencies on today as our guest, Belgian DJ and record producer. We're featuring his song "Don't Leave Me Now" off of the EP Cup of Beats. And I'm looking at the lyrics because I want to talk about fear of abandonment. Particularly in the beginning, you talk about there's an ocean in between your heart and me. And I'm wondering, so when you're on tour, what is it like maintaining a romantic relationship when there's literally an ocean between you? And even because every relationship has ebbs and flows, and when you're apart from the person, if you're experiencing a low point, it can make it even more challenging because now there's space between you, and you're busy doing other things. Is it challenging maintaining romantic relationships?
I have a girlfriend for now almost 5 years.
Okay.
And it's not actually, I think for me, it's not challenging because I really trust her. So I can be gone for 3-4 months and I know there's nothing's going to happen. So if imagine I leave and there is a law, I know she's not going to cheat, but if she wants to end the relationship, she's going to tell me first, and then she's going to do something crazy if she wants. And that's how I know for sure. Like I can go easily away, even if we never have fights. So even if we have a fight, it's going to be fine. And I think that's for me, because I can trust her so much, I can go away and easily. It doesn't really matter where I am. And on the other part, I think it's easier for people sometimes to, like, if I have to move for work and leave the house and go some places and I'm not all the time with her, it's actually easier to maintain a relationship because then when you see each other, there's more passion, when you come back. And if you have to live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week together, then I think people that can achieve such kind of a relationship when they're always together, it's more impressive.
I mean, all in and out of love.
Scott, he's eating your jokes up.
They're not.
Yay. Were you two quarantined together, you and your girlfriend?
Yes. Just us two.
That must have been nice spending time. Yeah. So this trust that you've built with your girlfriend, how long did it take to get to that kind of a place? When you first went on tour, was it? So, okay, you've been together 5 years. When did you start touring? How long ago?
Oh, I was already touring when I dated her. But it was not the same level as what I'm doing now. But I was gone. I was not there. So in the end, it was kind of the same. That I'm not there, even though I'm not doing the same level kind of shows now. But it's still kind of the same because I think it's more something of education and respect. That my mother raised me to be really respectful, and it's the same for her. So the moment we started dating, it was obvious that we were not going to cheat, or if something happens, if you want to cheat, then you break up, because why would you want to cheat if you're in a relationship with somebody? So it's more something like that, like how we think, and that's why we're together, because we think the same way.
Okay. In the beginning, when the relationship was new and you went away maybe for the first time or towards the beginning, was there a bit of uncertainty of not knowing how it was going to play out with her? Did you kind of have to build a trust together, or was it just right away? It just was easy?
I think it was right away. Yes. Yeah. It was the moment we started dating. It was more the moments before dating. That was the more roller coaster.
I see. Before, okay.
Because that's where you settle. It's kind of when you make the deal, It's where you're going to put some boundaries,
And you stayed up till the morning light, so that makes you tired.
Do you always do that?
I would say 100% of the time I make dad jokes with lyric tie-ins, but sometimes I will come in with a question that'll change your fucking perspective.
Let's do it.
I'm looking forward to that question.
Yeah, let's hear the question.
All right. Well, you know what?
Okay.
I actually find, because right now I'm living with my wife and working from home, and I'm a new dad. So you've seen a lot of spike in relationships ending, like divorces and separations, but we actually have had less drama because of this. So do you feel that being, brought together during a traumatic thing can actually make someone closer to someone?
Yes, it depends who you're with, I guess, and if you chose the right person to be with.
I fucking did.
Oh, then it's amazing for you.
I would just like to say that I have not said "don't leave me now" to her at all this entire time. You're right. I'm done.
Well, and then you have the kid also in extra. who is really linking you guys together.
Oh my God, I don't deserve him, but don't leave me.
Yeah, there you go. You're afraid of your kid leaving the house?
I'm afraid of him just walking.
That's another kind of scariness.
You say that to me once you have a kid walking. It's scary. It's so scary.
I will tell you. not for tomorrow.
Yes, yeah. Give it time, my man. Give it time. You will no longer feel alive and feeling fine. I'll tell you that. As soon as you have that, things will be different.
That's amazing. So we're coming to the end of segment 1 in a couple minutes. So we've got Lost Frequencies with us as our guest, and we're featuring his single "Don't Leave Me Now." I want to talk more about fear of abandonment in segment 2, and real quick. So on this show, we talk about. Have you heard of attachment theory?
No.
Attachment theory is in the 1970s, scientists discovered that. So our first experience as kids is attaching to our parents. That's our first experience of what it feels like to attach. And based on how our parents show up as parents, forms our worldview of what attachment and love is. And that also informs how we show up in our romantic relationships as adults. And the reason why I'm bringing it up, we talk about it on this show a lot, is because we form different kinds of attachments based on our experience as kids. There's a spectrum. So on one side of the spectrum, you've got avoidant, where people are avoiding love and they're kind of like keep it at a distance. They're kind of afraid of love. And on the other side of the spectrum, you've got anxiety, where people want it, but they're constantly unsure when they're going to get it. Their mind is ruminating, and so you've got people avoiding love. You've got people like anxiously pursuing love, and then kind of like a healthy place to be is in the middle, where you're not really avoiding it, you're not feeling anxiety, you're kind of in like a secure place. And in the second segment, I want to go into that more, because the fear of abandonment is in the anxious side of the spectrum. We did an episode, season 1, episode 1, we did avoidant, and that's like the emotionally unavailable person. And now I want to talk about the anxious side, which is the fear of abandonment and kind of like pursuing this. So we'll do that. So we're going to take a short break. And when we get back, we're going to continue this conversation with Lost Frequencies, Fear of Abandonment, and his new single, Don't Leave Me Now. Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to Life Rhythms Radio Show. I am your host, Ryan Skyy. I've got a special guest with me today, Belgian DJ and record producer, Lost Frequencies. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me on the show.
So excited to have you on again in the second segment. I'm going to refer to you by your real name, Felix. Yes. So hi, Felix. And we've got my manager and co-host, Scott Waldman.
Don't leave me stranded here. I need you.
Lyrics from the record, Don't Leave Me Now, which is on Lost Frequencies EP, Cup of Beats. So you guys heard a little bit of Don't Leave Me Now coming into this segment. So I want to talk about fear of abandonment. Let's talk about the song. So Don't Leave Me Now, I'm looking at the lyrics here, and I'm wondering, how did the topic and the lyrics of the song come about?
Well, I have different kinds of way of working. Sometimes I have an instrumental and I go working with a songwriter on the track, and sometimes I get a songwriter, a song demo. And this started with a song demo, so it's from a Dutch songwriter that I know, who sent me this demo, and we started working on it. And so he kind of chose the subject. But I usually I'm pretty picky on the subjects people send me to in the demos, because I get a lot of demos from people that want to work with me. But there's a lot of subjects that I don't want to touch because sometimes it's too easy, sometimes it's a little bit cheesy. And this one I really liked. I can connect, and usually I'm more of a melancholic guy towards the vocals, towards the lyrics. And this one is melancholic, but still in the music, it's more like an uplifting vibe. Still, the lyrics are kind of more melancholic.
Scott, let's that's really interesting. I do hear the melancholy aspect of it. It's got that indie dance vibe that you talk about. I feel that in the song. It's interesting because it's catchy and uplifting melody, but it's a little bit of a melancholy lyrics. And the singer is, so what, Scott, I'm curious your take on the lyrics. I don't deserve you, but don't leave. So I know I hurt you and I don't deserve you, but don't leave me.
It's accountability and it's admitting, that person is a very important part of your life. So it's humility. It's not too specific on how, the hurt was caused. But the recipient could take it one way or another way. They could take it as, this person's owning up, or this person screwed up and they don't deserve a shot. But the person singing or the writer or the author is putting their cards on the table by admitting fault and yet still trying to be a part of it.
Yeah. And in the next lyric, the singer says, took you for granted. So there is an admitting that the person was taken for granted. They're leaving or wanting to leave, or maybe the singer feels like it's a possibility and they're saying, I know, like, I took you for granted. I hurt you. I don't deserve you, but don't leave me. So they're kind of in this vulnerable place.
Extremely.
Right before the end of segment 1, we talked about, I mentioned briefly about attachment theory, one of my favorite subjects. We talked about the anxious attached person, which I could see that in this song, that somebody who's anxiously attached. I'm wondering, Felix, do you experience anxiety in your relationships? So when I talked about the spectrum of avoidant or anxiety, where do you think you would fall on that spectrum?
More into the anxiety part, maybe.
Me too.
Because I'm very love seeker, I guess.
Okay.
And if I have love for somebody and this person goes away without really acknowledging it or really knowing or don't really care, I think it will hurt me.
Is communication, does it come easy for you within relationships, or is it something that you've had to learn? Like, for instance, if do you keep things inside even if you're feeling anxiety, or do you voice them to your girlfriend?
No, I will say things I think. I'm going to speak loud, and she's going to know. But usually it's okay, because in my family we have we talk a lot. Like, we talk a lot of everything, of every subject. So there is no really boundaries into what we will say.
Okay, so you had that. You were raised with that kind of environment, so it was kind of taught to you, which is awesome.
Yeah, and be honest with your feelings too. Like, don't be scared to say that you love somebody and stuff like that.
I love you, Ryan.
I'm more somebody like that.
You love me? Oh, thanks, Scott. Love you too, man. Yeah. Okay. That's really awesome. I can't say for myself. I was raised in a loving home, but it was not necessarily an environment. I wasn't really taught effective communication of being vulnerable and sharing how I felt. I'm sure if I did, it would have been received well, but I don't know if I just kind of kept things to myself. And now as an adult in relationships, I'm mostly in a secure place, but I do experience some anxiety, and I notice it's in my head. So I usually won't voice it because I know that I try to counter it. And this is something for listeners. If you experience anxiety, one of the key ways of getting through it is to kind of question your stories. And so just for an example, yesterday, so I'm in Mexico. Yesterday, I was texting with somebody, and I texted this person, and they replied like right away with a lot of enthusiasm, which is a sign of high interest. If somebody responds quickly, they're enthusiastic, high interest. And then I replied back and I said, would you like to FaceTime with me when you're free? And they didn't respond right away. And like my anxiety, my anxious mind started like all these things, like, why didn't they get back to me? Don't they want to FaceTime with me? Maybe they're only interested enough to reply to my text, but not interested enough to FaceTime me. Maybe they're like, what are they doing? It's like my mind started wandering. And obviously I wasn't going to act on these thoughts because I knew it would have a negative impact on the person, and it was in my head. And then like 10 minutes later, they FaceTimed me. And then I found out that they were like out in public somewhere. And in their mind, they're like, oh yeah, I would like to FaceTime him. I'm about to get in my car and I'll they could have texted me and said, yeah, I'll FaceTime you in a couple of minutes, but they figured, oh, I'll just call him. So anyways, they call me and like all was well. But for me, I thought, oh, this is a good example of kind of like the anxiety, the fear of abandonment. And it's so silly because it's like they just express interest and then right away I'm still questioning like, well, wait, maybe they're not interested anymore. So like so silly.
Relax, man.
Yeah. I know.
No, but, if you know those people, if you know you get along, it's not going to be. There's no problem, you know. I mean, if like you said, if these people really responded immediately with enthusiasm, and then they don't respond, there's probably a good reason for it. It's not because they don't want to. Like for example, for myself, I'm a lot on my laptop. I work a lot on my laptop here. And my WhatsApp is always open, so I respond super quickly to short questions, quick stuff. But so sometimes I have people asking me something small, I answer super quickly, and then they ask me to call, and I'm like, I don't really have time to call right now. And then I put it on read, and I will call it in 3 hours, and they know it's no problem.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think, Scott? What are your thoughts?
Ask me specifically what you want thoughts on.
Okay, so my example about experiencing a little anxiety, and I mean, I'm sharing this on the show. It was a minor experience, but it's still, it's like I think it's a good example of kind of what.
But I see what you mean, though. I can see how you would feel,
how the mind wanders, and and I'll say with this particular interaction, it's somebody new in my life, so we haven't established enough consistency to kind of trust that the connection. But so what are your thoughts on that?
Oh my God. I mean, I just remember when I was single and I was dating, how I would leave one date feeling like it was the greatest date ever. And then the girl wouldn't call me back, or I would be on a date with someone where I was like, and the girl would be all about it. So what you perceive could be completely different than, what the recipient receives. So it's very easy to tell someone else not to be neurotic about stuff, but it's very hard to tell yourself that. So just be patient.
Yeah. Yes. Patience is a virtue.
It is. Don't leave me. Leave me.
Yeah. I find it's best. Patience, I agree. It's a virtue. And I find it's best time is really good to just, if I start questioning something or experiencing anxiety, I don't act on it. I've learned to just give it time and let things play out. And usually it's never what you have going on in your head. It's usually not.
That's
not like that.
I've had it right now for example, so I did a track with a singer called Calvin Jones, and he can know it's okay. We were together to do some promo like 1.5 months ago, and then we drove back together to Brussels, and we listened to a lot of music from him, and then we listened to this demo, and I was like, whoa, this is a sick track. Can I have the stems? Can I work on it? And he was like, yeah, man, sure, no problem. And then he leaves. I send him a message, can I have the stems? He's like, yeah, sure. And then he doesn't answer me for literally 1.5 months until today. And I'm like, what happened? Like, where were you? But I waited because I guess the guy is busy. And he was literally went in Sweden into a house with no phones, no laptop, because he wanted to disconnect for like 1 month. And so he said, what's up for 1 month? But he didn't tell anybody. So then he was like, yeah, I sent you the stems today. And then I finally have those stems. But it's funny that I wasn't scared or I wasn't anxious. I was just like, it's weird, like something must have happened, because otherwise he wouldn't tell me, because we really get along. So, and in the end, there was a reason, and it was a funny reason.
Yeah, funny. But during those 6 weeks, month and a half, what kind of stories were going through your head?
The main idea I had, it was that I told him it was a really good track, and he wanted to keep it for himself, and suddenly didn't want to work with me on it. And I was like, but it's weird because he would tell me, because we were really open about all this kind of stuff. So it was what was happening in the back of my head, but it was obviously not the truth, because I know he really wanted to work with me on it. But so I know something was going on, but I thought about it.
So were you thinking that maybe you expressed too much interest and then kind of clued him in on how good the track was, and then he was having second thoughts like, oh, this is better than I thought. Maybe I should keep it for myself.
Yes.
And then you think about what you said, and you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been so excited about it. Maybe I should have been more chill and like, oh, that's, this is pretty good. Let me take a stab.
No, because I don't mind. I don't mind saying to somebody that the music is great, and if they don't want to work with me, it's fine. Because I'm really for, like, if when something is good, go for it. Tell them, because there's a lot of things like people like they really root for you when you're going up, and then when you're doing it, they don't really root for you anymore. So I'm really for spreading positive vibes, and when something is cool and good, even if there is something I don't like somewhere, I'm only going to focus on what I liked and say what I like. And if they ask me, but what did you not like, to be constructive, then I will say. But mostly when it's really more small talk, it's probably going to be positive, because I don't want to spend time on bad vibes,
What do you think would have happened if you would have texted him and messaged him a bunch of times throughout those 6 weeks, and then he gets his phone back and he's bombarded with all these messages from you? How do you think that would have changed his perception of you or the relationship? Do you think it would have changed things?
It would have been weird.
It would have been weird, yeah. Especially when you found out that he was just away. You would have been like, oh, man.
Yeah. But that's not what I do, because if I message somebody once and I really want an answer, maybe I'm going to do it a second time, which I rarely do. But if they don't answer the second one, it's because they don't want to talk to me. Then I'm not going to push it. I don't want to be a stalker. I don't want to push it too much. I don't want to be the guy sending 15 messages. Like, it's okay. Then if you don't want to talk, but then what I don't understand is that they just say to me that you don't want to talk, or you don't want to do it, because I rather be honest than just mean somehow.
Yeah, I have that as well. It's I have a two outreach rule, that if I reach out to someone twice and they don't get back to me, they're never going to hear from me again unless they reach out to me.
Okay. And if you was gone for 1 month and the phone was up,
it's the follow up.
But it's as you say, you follow up once, but then beyond that, if they don't get back to you, then you just leave it be and give them an opportunity to reach out if they want.
You're right.
But sometimes it happens. For example, you send a message, for example, I don't know, on WhatsApp, and in the US, a lot of people, they don't per se have WhatsApp on their phone, and then they don't answer straight, and then they download the app, but they don't use it. And then 3 months later, you have an answer like, oh, sorry, I never checked my WhatsApp. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had it again with somebody.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Fair enough. Makes sense.
That makes sense. So listeners, we have Lost Frequencies as our guest today, and we're talking about fear of abandonment as related to his track, Don't Leave Me Now. And so when I was researching some more about fear of abandonment, I came across something that this was really interesting to me. And the idea is that archetypes and mythology affect our learned fear of abandonment. So what I was reading is that mythology is filled with stories of abandoned or rejected lovers, primarily women, who dedicate their entire selves to their partners only to be left behind when the lover goes off to conquer the world. Some psychologists, such as Carl Jung, argue that these myths and legends have become part of our collective unconscious. At some primal level, we have internalized certain archetypes and stories and made them part of our shared worldview. I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah, I guess it can be very. It can, like all those stories, they can really influence you, I think, because, for example, when I was younger, I was really into the Greek mythology, and somehow I think if you read all these stories on how people react to some situations, and you are in a situation you don't know how to react, maybe you're gonna act like in the story, and you're gonna play the role of somebody in a story that had a situation you had, and be like maybe somebody you're not,
Yeah, it's interesting to internalize.
Yes.
Scott, have you internalized any myths or stories?
I mean, there's just been so many times where I do the follow-up rule as well, like you, Ryan, because I don't want to be too much of a burden. And if someone, doesn't want to respond to my second email about something, chances are if I reach out a third time, it's not going to go over well for either of us. So I just kind of give up on that there. But obviously there are certain extenuating circumstances, like when my father passed away in 2007, I couldn't respond to everyone, which is a good problem to have. So, you just got to be patient with people, and sometimes they can come back to you apologizing, or sometimes they just won't get back to you at all.
Yeah. This internalizing idea, when I think about the movies, so I was in basically back-to-back relationships in my adult life. And about 4 years ago, I found myself single and actually dating for the first time in my life. Like I never actually had to go on dates, like first dates and second dates, and go through that whole courtship. I just jumped right into relationships, which I want to talk later about signs of fear of abandonment. And one of them is that you attach quickly. So I'm wondering if that's something that I experienced. But one thing I learned quickly was that what we see in the movies of how relationships play out, and the way that like the guy over pursues the girl obsessively and he doesn't go away and he shows up at her house, and that stuff does not play out. Not that I did those things, but that doesn't play out well in the real world.
You'd be called a stalker in real.
The movies are not. Yeah, you'd be called a stalker. Movies are not an accurate portrayal of the way attraction actually works in real life.
Yes. Because you have a lot of different kind of stories. It depends on which one you're thinking. Because
on screen, they romanticize kind of like the effort of being in love and going after what you want. But it doesn't work in real life. We only have a few minutes left in this final segment. We've got Lost Frequencies as our guest today. I want to close out talking about signs of fear of abandonment. These are some signs for our listeners, in case they're curious, of how do you know if you have fear of abandonment. The first one is you attach quickly. So even to someone that's unavailable emotionally, you attach quickly to this person. Another sign is you fail to fully commit and have had very few long-term relationships. So on one hand, you're afraid of abandonment, so you attach quickly and like cling on to the person. On the other side, you're afraid of being abandoned, so you just never attach. You don't even let there be a possibility of being abandoned by like, kind of like keeping your distance. You aim to please. Is that something you've ever experienced? Like pleasing, aim to please?
Yes.
It's not really. Yeah. Like gifts or what kind of things?
More like
words of affirmation, I would assume.
Yeah.
So complimenting.
Yeah, complimenting people. And like say
Felix and Ryan, you guys are both doing such a great job.
Thank you for the compliment, Scott. Yeah, so aim to please. How about this one? Okay, here's another one. Is fear of abandonment, engage in unwanted sex. Meaning you don't really want it, but you do it anyways. That's not really something I've...
That's more like at the end of the relationship when it's already over.
Maybe, oh. Yeah, I could see that. Okay, some other signs of fear of abandonment. You stay in relationships no matter how unhealthy they are. So you have this like fear of leaving.
You think that you'll never find someone else, that this is it. And I've been there. The very first relationship I had, we spoke about it on your first episode where, I just thought that I couldn't do any better.
Yeah, that's interesting. What about this one? That you are often jealous of everyone you meet. Can we unpack that? What like fear of abandonment? You're jealous of everyone you meet. How does that tie together?
So you're jealous that people are going to take the people you love around you and take them away?
Maybe that's what that means. It says you're often jealous of everyone you meet. So it's like they have something you don't, basically, right? They have something that you want.
I see what you mean. Or maybe you see them coming along with other people and you think, oh, they have everything I don't have, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. Another one, which I think this is pretty on point, is hypersensitive to criticism. So if you're afraid of being abandoned, any form of criticism, you're going to be on guard, and you'll see it as a sign of, oh, I'm about to lose this person. They're about to leave me because they're criticizing me. This must be the end.
You're talking about the fact that people are criticizing you. And
yes.
Not somebody that's fear of abandonment is going to criticize other people.
If I have fear of abandonment, if somebody criticizes me, I'm going to be hypersensitive to it, because I will see that as a clue, which it likely is not really, but in my anxious mind, you see that criticism as a clue that this person doesn't like me anymore.
It's really overthinking stuff, huh?
What is that?
It's really overthinking stuff all the time.
Yeah, which I was saying earlier, it comes down to the stories in your mind. That's really the best way to move through these things, is to question, to recognize that just because I'm having a thought doesn't automatically make it true. And there's usually always a flip side. So if I have one story that this person hasn't said they wanted to FaceTime me because maybe they don't want to, I can question that thought and say, well, what's the other possibility? Maybe they're busy. Maybe they are about to FaceTime me and they're, getting to a quiet place, or just going.
And then it's overthinking everything. Yeah.
Overthinking. Yeah. And I think, do you meditate? Do you do any kind of like mind work like that?
I think I should try it though. I don't do it.
Haven't tried it. What about, so last week I was talking to Felix Yin, he was my guest, and we talked about flow state. Have you experienced flow in the studio? Do you know what that is?
No.
It can be kind of like a form of meditation. So when you enter flow is a state where you lose track of time and you get so immersed in what you're doing that just time disappears. And the next thing you know, it's like 3 hours later and you're like, holy cow, I was just producing for the past 3 hours. Like, where did the time go? What happens is, the way to enter flow is, first you have to experience a challenge. So you start producing and maybe it's like challenging. You're trying to figure out the kick drum you want to use, or if you want to use hardware for your bass, or, a synth. But then you start getting into the flow of it, and then it just kind of becomes easy, and you just start, just going into the track. And you basically you're at your highest state of creativity in flow state. Do you ever experience that when you're producing?
I think
you lose track of time.
Maybe most of the time I lose track of time in the studio. I'm just messing around, moving stuff. I literally, what I do is I put an alarm 5 minutes before I need to do something, because otherwise I'm just gonna. And when the alarm goes off, I just keep on doing it. So
is it hard to stop?
Yeah, it's really hard.
Speaking of losing track of time and hard to stop, we're done, and I'm sad.
Oh, that went by so fast.
That's what she.
Amazing. So, listeners, that's what she said. So we had Lost Frequencies as our guest on today on Life Rhythms, and we were featuring his single "Don't Leave Me Now" from the EP Cup of Beats. Check it out, you guys. Go online, stream it. It's an awesome EP, and so happy to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on. It's been great. Such a pleasure.
Thank you, everybody on the team here, and thank you to Ryan, of course.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, everyone. Yay!
So check out Lost Frequencies and his single "Don't Leave Me Now," and thank you for listening to Life Rhythms Radio Show.